TikTok is suing the Biden administration over the law forcing a ban or sale from ByteDance. They say the platform's parent company, ByteDance, has accused Biden's administration of violating First Amendment rights by allegedly trying to silence the 170 million Americans who use the social media application. The bill was overwhelmingly passed by Congress and signed by Biden on April 24th, giving ByteDance until January 19th to sell TikTok or face a ban. It was driven by concerns that China could use the app to access American users' data. And now we'll pause and interject. Everybody knows no one cares about them stealing data. And the real issue is that this is the one platform the deep state can't control. And on the platform, massive anti-Israel and pro-Palestine content started to emerge. And then shortly following that, Democrats jumped in line with Republicans to ban this. And then they did. Now, I'll clarify. The bill doesn't literally ban the service. It prohibits U.S. companies from contracting with any company that has some kind of business tie with North Korea, China, Russia, or Iran. In this instance, of course, TikTok is connected with China. ByteDance is. So the bill requires TikTok to divest from this Chinese source, and then they're fine. If they don't, they will be purged from U.S. servers and app stores. So what does that mean? Worst case scenario, TikTok will be a website you can go to. And if you want to use it, it won't be on Apple because Apple's a closed operating system. It'll be on Android if you download an APK. But for all intents and purposes, it is a ban if they do not divest from China. So I love this official mainstream narrative that the real reason is they don't want China getting your data. Yeah, right. Everybody's stealing your data. Every app is stealing your data. There are a bunch of other apps that are owned by ByteDance and other Chinese companies, and they never complained about them. But here we are with them wanting to ban it. Now, the interesting question is, will they actually win in court? I think considering Trump tried to executive order ban TikTok a couple years ago, it's very likely that this bill will just get smashed.
I think it's interesting that TikTok has decided it's easier to fight the United States government than to fight the Chinese government. Like the effort to remain in the U.S. as opposed to the effort to divest from China appears to be the strategy I think they're going to take. They always said they were going to challenge the bill. They always said they thought it was unconstitutional, et cetera. But geopolitically, I feel like they must be weighing which of these two forces would you rather fight? And it seems like they think the U.S. is more likely to give in.
I think that ByteDance is likely a cover for, or TikTok is likely an actual tool being used by China to, for espionage. I can't get specific. I don't obviously know, but I think that, China has a desk at basically every single company that operates in China. That's the CCP desk. So every company is connected to the government in the same way that like Twitter had like a former FBI lawyer had a desk, was their head lawyer. But with China, it's a little more overt than the United States. The United States would use soft power, would try to influence and pressure people just by being present, right? So the fact that the FBI was kind of in the office with Twitter meant that people at the offices of Twitter behaved a certain way. With the CCP, with China, it's not subtle. They're very overt. They're like, you're going to do this. And so it's pretty obvious as to why they decided to go ahead and take the U.S. on in court, as opposed to, China, you don't have courts where you can fight the government. It's just, there isn't an option. It's this way, or we literally send the guys with the guns to shut you down. In the U.S., at least they can try and fight.
I'm in favor of the bill. What do you think, Jay?
It's just like the other issues we were bringing up before the show. There's no easy answers on this because, on the one hand, I could see this being an attempt at a hostile takeover in a corporate sense, but also at the same time, obviously these things are used for espionage and spying purposes. I know that every time I've tried to put something on TikTok, I get bans and strikes immediately.
Yep, even when you don't break the rules.
I've been banned multiple times for not breaking the rules. I put up one minor clip that had like a few seconds of Lord Voldemort. You can probably figure out what I'm talking about. Unbelievable. So I put that up and I was gone. Never had any success on it. So from a personal perspective, I don't care. But I know that there's something going on psyops wise with the way that this is really messing with especially young people's minds. So at the same time, I understand that the model then is copied by, our big tech entities as well. So there's no easy answers here.
I'm in favor of it simply because the economic factor. 170 million Americans, they brag about that. That's a massive piece of our digital economy controlled by China. Their algorithms and their whims. Nah, I think that's bad. More importantly, I did this segment earlier today about this woman who has the world's biggest lips. I don't know if you guys saw this story. She's 26. And I noticed this when, like traveling, especially going like to Vegas. Young women with massive lip fillers. And it's repulsive. Sorry, I just think it is. You could live your life. The way you look is of no consequence to me. If you want to get lip fillers, you do. You don't have to care about what I think, but I'll tell you what I think. I think it's repulsive. And what we're learning is it's not just TikTok, it's also Instagram. But this is still a large component of we should not allow a foreign entity to be influencing our young people to the point where they're destroying their lives, especially with weird behaviors like this.
Yeah, it does seem like it gets in their heads and promotes very strange trends. I think one of the biggest challenges is that the TikTok algorithm is so sophisticated, it's setting the standard for what all social media companies are going to do, right? Like
exactly.
This like rapid video platform was quickly adopted by Instagram. YouTube has Shorts now, but they can't really. I mean, as far as I can tell, they can't really replicate the distribution aspect of the algorithm, getting people to certain content as quickly as TikTok has been able to. And again, if that's ultimately controlled by a foreign entity, that's extremely dangerous.
Yeah, and also a lot of people critique it by pointing out that what's shown in China is not what's shown to Western audiences, and that's on purpose. So they'll have long form content that's actually positive messages about like having family and wholesome things, whereas what's shown here is this really short form content that actually promotes TRANS type things.
Should we get super conspiratorial and just assume that Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok are the solution to the long-form podcast alternative media problem for the deep state? I'm half kidding, but there's no reason for these platforms to decide that minute-long content is better than 2-hour-long content. You had, Joe Rogan burst on the scene with these long-form podcasts, something like, 14 years ago. He's using Ustream. Then he's on YouTube. And these very long conversations become extremely popular. And then with YouTube throughout 2016 into even today, still slowly less so today in the past couple of years, the content that was popular and promoted in the algorithm was 10 minutes plus. Now, I see channels that there's one guy, he's got a great channel, by the way, but all his videos are a minute long. And he got 1 million subscribers in like 6 months from making shorts because the algorithm is promoting this. But then what do you get if the only media you consume is flash in the pan, flip, flip, flip? You get people who don't actually know what's going on. They won't actually explore the issues. And this is mighty fine if you are concerned about the rabble having access to sharing information and deep dives.
Yeah, it reminds me of when people are like, oh, I know a lot about the story. And it's like, well, I read the headline of the story. I didn't read anything else. I mean, it's ultimately giving you what can effectively be the same amount of information as a headline. And I think it does sort of grate away at everyone's attention spans.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's really easy to damage your attention span and get addicted to short form content.
I think, remember when the whistleblowers from the big tech companies came out a few years ago, that Jason, I think Renier guy that to do with the dreads, right? And he was talking about how they did specifically design the nonstop scrolling feed for that purpose. Their main purpose was to keep you, on the app, which makes sense. But the idea is that you don't ever actually fixate and ruminate on what you're reading. You're actually just constantly agitated, and I think there's something to that, and from a psychological perspective, because there were studies a while back. I remember Alex talking about it years ago that people that listen to radio or to podcasts long form, they tend to have a better retention span. They tend to have a lot higher IQ even because they're actually engaging different parts of the brain that just a nonstop visual like this, you're not even like half of your brain's not even being used.
It's static. Yeah. It's just garbled noise and random nonsense. Especially when you're doing the thing where you just swipe to the next video and getting the algorithmic feed. When I'm on Instagram, I'm sitting there on a toilet or whatever, I go to my recommendation tab and I get this big spattering of random garbage. And they're always trying to feed you something. But all I end up watching is just like, right now I think I'm watching a lot of like skiing and snowboarding videos and skateboarding videos. But you look at this big map of content and you choose to watch one thing at a time. And so there's still a sort of through line in that when you look at it that way. But a lot of people aren't even doing that now. Yeah. What's happening is with like Reels on Instagram is they'll watch a podcast clip and then swipe to the next one. My favorite phenomenon out of all this is the fake podcast. Have you seen these?
Yeah.
People will make an Instagram short where they'll buy a mic arm, put it in front of them, and then talk to the wall, and they'll say something like, no, you, like quite literally, they will turn the camera on and immediately go, well, you can't actually say that. I mean, if you look at the economy today, we know that Biden is responsible for the inflation. It's ridiculous. No, that's a ridiculous argument. And then that's it. There's no person. There's no podcast. That's the whole clip. And then it gets like 1 million views. It's a fake podcast clip because it's probably born out of clips from like Joe Rogan, because people would clip his show and then people realized, just make a fake podcast. A lot of it's dating. It'll be a woman saying, no, I actually think that men are deserving, blah, blah, blah. And it's totally pandering to the audience. 1 million views, 1 million followers, and there was never a podcast to begin with.
You mean
just a
me
link to a
rehearsing
website.
our IRL
Yep.
script could just be our shorts? That's crazy.
If you're watching this on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube Shorts, there never was a Timcast IRL. It's a green screen, and we've just spliced everyone together.
Everything's fake and gray. Gray.
The room
Just
is very
gray.
gray.
Just
It
like
is.
the overlords want it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I find disheartening about all of this, which is like, instead of encouraging people to pursue things they're really interested in, like, you know, my Instagram feed is a lot of like house, you know, DIY, whatever stuff. It's constantly bombarding you with this stuff, but it's not a lot of information. None of these things are designed to give you, it's like, well, this is the exact tool that you need. Some of them do, not a lot. And so if you're a young person and your feed is delivering you what you think is news, but it's actually just like fake podcasts and half a headline, you may feel as though you are informed, but actually you are barely on the surface of any issue you've now just created an emotional attachment to.
Most people that surf the the little bite-sized content, things like your TikToks, like your shorts, like your reels, they have a similar knowledge of the topics that they're willing to engage on, as in they have just a wave top basic understanding. And I think you see that demonstrated with the protesters pretty clearly. Most of the protesters don't know why they're protesting, and the ones that do, that can actually articulate a sentence or two about why, it's very, very it's very cookie cutter. It sounds like they're repeating something from a textbook that they read. It doesn't sound like they're ideas that they have. And I think that's emblematic of the type of content that those people are consuming, because it's not saying that everyone does. I just think that it matches up with people that don't really know what they're talking about, but have significant emotional attachment to a topic or whatever. But they don't have deep knowledge of it. Whereas people that have deep knowledge of it, that'll spend the time to learn about it, they might have significant emotional attachment to it, but it's not going to be the kind of reactionary emotional outburst kind of attachment. So
I think the scary thing is that a good portion of the videos on TikTok and Instagram are AI generated, where people will load a clip. There's like a service you can get that will make these videos for you, and the robot voice, you choose what voice you want, and then it will just read a script. And so it's all these cookie cutter prefab videos where they'll take a viral clip, add an AI voice narrator, and then re-upload it to the platform. It's just
like garbage, like sludge. Yeah.
We are a couple of years away from living in the pod and eating the bugs.
Exactly. I was doing a bunch of research on the Diddy thing, and I came across like endless YouTube videos that were uploaded of like AI voice commenting on, you know, like, this week Diddy did this, and it's like not real content, not real information. Right. It reminds me of a TED Talk that one of the tech guys, I don't remember who it was, but several years back there was a TED Talk about gamification. Everybody should watch that, because the guy was saying that the future will be based on video game studies that were done, where the dopamine hit that everybody got from, like, when you're playing a game, you unlock an achievement, that dopamine hit becomes the model that the tech companies would use in their algorithm for, you know, social media. So that's the explanation for all of this, is that they know that when you see that, you get that hit.
Yeah.
And so now you're like addicted to the nonstop constant hit. But then the more you do it, it's a feedback loop that you're not getting the dopamine that you originally got. So it's based on video games.
It reminds me of dating apps. Like, the people say, because you can endlessly swipe and swipe and
Right.
swipe, and like you're just searching for the next match or whatever else, which may or may not give you a sense of dopamine. Like, we are designed to always be looking for the next thing, but to be moving very quickly through it.
$1 billion idea. You want to make $1 billion, Jay?
Yes.
Okay. It's a dating app service. You know, it feels like Tinder, but it's actually AI. And so what happens is, you're some dude and you're like, I'm gonna go on this app, and you're swiping and swiping, and then the hot chick swipes it back on you, and it's like a match. And then she's like, you know what, I actually just moved, but you're so cool. And then she whispers sweet nothings into your ear, and it keeps you on the platform. And then for some reason, she just keeps talking about how great Arby's is. And you're like, man, this chick's weird. She's hot, but she loves Arby's. And then, Arby's pays for the interaction.
Right. So you're close to Ty Lopez's first idea.
Oh,
Yeah, he actually, the only difference is that it wasn't AI. It was like his buddies were like doing the girls. Like so it was like a dating thing, but it was like
they're like semi catfishing them.
Exactly, yeah.
Wait. That's the guy from YouTube was like Knowledge. That guy?
Remember, I'm just here in my garage. Hey guys, I'm here in my garage.
I got all these books for my knowledge. That was like the meme or whatever. So wait,
but he would his thing was like he would read the first sentence and then like the last sentence of the book, and then that was like the speed reading way to master every book.
But what was the service he was offering people?
He had a bunch of different. Like the first one was a dating app, or not an app, it's a dating website. It was pre-app, so it was like a dating website.
How did he make money off that? I was kidding. Like
no,
Arby's
like,
gonna buy
well, a
that.
lot of dudes signed up like because it was a
paying.
guaranteed match. That's what it was. The service was like eHarmony, where it's like, but we guarantee a match. But then the matches were like
Actually, his
dude
male
bros,
friends.
like dude bros in there, like yeah.
Wow.
Hey.
Is that fraud?
I don't remember what happened to that case. But
I think your idea
wild.
with Arby's is kind of interesting because Democratic leaning get out the vote efforts will like get on dating apps and be like, hey, have you registered to vote? And a lot of times guys are like, I don't know, I could. That sounds okay. Like, it's how long until influencer culture kind of collides with the dating app, and they're like, hey, if you get 5 guys to buy you Arby's, we'll give you $1,000. And she's just on there being like, you want to go to Arby's?
That's the voter registration thing now. It's going to be like Republicans are going to start going on dating apps, women, and they're going to be like, you want to meet up? I'm going to register to vote. You want to meet me up and register to vote?
That's what the Democrats are saying. They're like, I watched this. I was during midterms. One of the Michigan ones in Michigan was like, this girl wasn't even in Michigan. She's like, hey, are you like just constantly to everyone be like, you know what's really cool? Voting. Are you registered to vote? Like we could all make a plan to go vote together, which also just sounds so weird. Like if she was on the street or in a bar saying this to a guy, I feel like he'd be like, no thanks. But on an app, it's like people are like, well, this is how we're going to keep the conversation going. It's like preying on the most vulnerable parts of someone's emotions.
Yeah.
Look, Arby's should get in on this. They can make a lot of money, possibly, or just create a weird influencer network.
We're going to live in the pod, and we're going to eat the bugs, whether anyone wants to or not, because all of society is going to move into the pods, and they're going to buy the bugs, and the market's going to drift away from cheeseburgers and drift towards roach burgers.
The thing is, there's a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and live in the pod. There's going to be a lot of people that'll be like, this is actually better, because for a lot of people on Earth, the pod is actually a better option than their real life. Now,
Maybe that's the plan.
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
like if you look at like here, we're a lot of times like we think of like, oh, live in the pod compared to like our life here, right? Which is, obviously most people in America are like, well, my normal life is better than the pod. Not everybody, but most people. But if you're in like Rwanda or a war-torn place or whatever, and you have the option of kind of hunkering down in a pod and not going out into places where you can, be killed, and you can stay in the pod and do some kind of menial task or whatever it is that produces you enough money to keep you in the pod. I don't know if that's possible or whatever, but that option is a better option than rape.
It is
or
interesting because
death,
if you were like
or torture.
seriously impoverished, if you have nothing around you, if they're like, we could just be in this pod, it's got air conditioning and it's less risk of death, then maybe you would be like, okay.
I got to be honest, it might not even have air conditioning, but you'll have the neural implant,
You won't know.
so
Right.
you
You
won't
won't
know
care.
the difference.
Yeah.
Well, the fancy toilet here looks kind of like a pod. I was going to climb in there and see what it's like, but
So you do want to be in the pod.
Yeah, but to be
Admit it.
fair, the fancy toilets have been around for a long time. Long enough for original
I'm just not
Simpsons to
fancy.
make fun of it. Yeah, you can get them at like Home Depot now.
But I really legit think that like most people that are like, no, I won't go like live in the pod, they're comparing it to like a generally good life. You get some depressed people that are, that aren't having a great life here in the US, and they're like, well, maybe the pod's not so bad. You talk to people that have miserable lives if they can take the, the daily drudgery of essentially shoving rocks uphill all day long or live in the pod.
How do you think they'll
It might be
market the
something they'll take.
pods? Like, will the pods be sort of like a wellness self-care thing? Like, life's hard. Take
yeah.
a week or two off in this
Yeah.
pod. Or will it be more like a environmental thing? The air is so bad, you could be in this pod. Like, how are they going to market the
no, it's going to be a
pods?
luxury thing.
yeah.
It's gonna,
So?
it's gonna be like status and luxury and gaming at first. It's gonna be marketed as the cool new video game. You gotta be in there. You can do anything. Like
Vacations.
yeah, but it'll be a lot like GTA. It'll be video game and community stuff. So they tried doing it with Metaverse, but you had no legs and you were like this weird Muppet floating around like a Wii figure, and people didn't like it. So they got to improve that. But thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.